I'm so excited to have this chance to have Sathu Jois here with me today. Satu, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet with me. How,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
oh man, it's an honor and a privilege. How has your day been going so far?
Yeah, it's been going pretty good. We're just preparing for a group of students to come in a bit. So, yeah.
Cool. And in case somebody listening doesn't know who you are, how did you get into yoga?
Yeah, I'm the granddaughter of Pattabhi Jois, the daughter of Manju Jois, his son. And my dad's been teaching yoga for over 60 years now. He's 81. And he's been exposing me to yoga right since I was born. I think the first yoga class I attended was when I was a month old. And he started sort of teaching me just for fun when I was around 6 years old. But I got more serious into it over COVID, actually. I was a senior in high school at the time, and everything had shut down. And he used to travel a lot for yoga. And this was a time where we were both home and getting a little stir crazy with the shutdown and everything. So
Yeah.
he was like, okay, we need some routine every morning. I would practice with him and I really loved it. And that's when I fell in love with it. And then I went off to college and sort of abandoned my practice a little bit. I mean, I still use some parts of the practice, but I was a dance major in university and that was pretty full on physically. So it would have been far too much for me to do both at the time. And so after I graduated, I came back to the practice and started teaching with him immediately after. 10 days after I graduated, we set off to Europe for 3 months and I was hooked. So that's how
Very cool.
I got involved. Yeah.
That's amazing. Having had the experience when you were 6, and if you juxtaposition that off of your experience when you started learning and practicing more, or continuing to practice during 2020, how would you gauge that difference in relation to your perspective of seeing at such a young age and then coming into it in your teens, 20s?
Yeah, I really admired the way that my dad chose to teach me as a kid versus as an adult. Because I think if he had taught me so seriously from a young age, I would have totally lost interest. But the way that he taught me was to have a lot of fun. It was sort of playing around. Every kid wants to do handstands and all the fun sort of acrobatic parts of it. So he kind of just told me to play around and actually, what he did when I was a kid was he did a little reverse psychology and said, "Don't practice yoga, don't do
Uh,
it," which of course makes you want to practice.
yeah.
And so it worked. It worked very well. And I started to sort of practice with my door closed, and I just got more and more interested in it as a kid, but I was
Cool.
never really
Yeah.
deep into it. And then as an adult, I found that it was giving me a lot of tools that I could use at the time. Like when I was in high school, for example, I'd get a lot of test anxiety, and he'd say, you have your pranayama to do before each exam, and that would help me a lot. So there was, I think it just became more applicable to my life as I got older, and that's where that change happened. As a kid, I didn't have so many problems, and as an adult, things start to come up, and that's where I knew, okay, to get through life, I'm going to have to stick to this practice and get a little deeper involved with it.
That's cool. That's amazing,
Yeah.
Satsu. I have two children that, and the process of my wife and I having a studio always kind of took the approach of thinking, don't push it on them because I didn't
Hmm.
want them to feel the way about it that I felt about like when my parents forced me to go to church, like I really rebelled. So I love hearing that reverse psychology aspect worked. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I also feel like when I decided that I wanted to be a teacher, that happened when I got to sit down with his students one on one and hear what the practice and what him as a teacher, what that has done for them. And that's what really got me to stick with it was
Mm.
yeah, just understanding how much the practice has helped so many other people.
That's
So it's really important. Yeah.
That's amazing. What are some of the key feedbacks that you receive that stick out in your mind that that you hear from students and or what you heard from students that the benefit that they receive from yoga practice?
The biggest one from my dad's teachings has just been joy. Like he just radiates joy. He is such a character. He finds jokes in everything. Everyone's always laughing in his classes, which I hadn't really experienced before. Growing up as a dancer, it was always very rigorous training and not so much, there wasn't a lot of room for laughing and it was very serious. So he was is a very joyful teacher, and I think that changed the practice for a lot of people because Ashtanga has gotten a reputation of just being very serious and disciplined, and it is disciplined, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun with it. You can't find joy in it. It shouldn't be something that brings you unhappiness. And yeah, so that's what I think I have heard from most people is that they can just soften into their lives a little bit more and into the practice because they have this approach with joy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Great
mhm.
point. That is a really good point. How do you meet people when they really want that strict authoritarian sort of approach? Do you just kind of don't meet them with that and just give them lots of love and joy? Have you come across that? Because I would imagine being able to assist your dad, your interfacing with lots of different people. What has been your
Yeah.
experience with because I know sometimes people are like, I really want it to be tough. Like I want you to push me. I want you to push me. And I'm
Hmm,
kind of saying like,
hmm.
let's just relax a little bit and kind of
Yeah.
enjoy this
Yeah.
experience. How do you face that?
Yeah, I've definitely encountered that. And it's like with everything, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and they can either stick with you or they can look for what they need somewhere else. But I think it's really beautiful when people choose to surrender to the practice and try something new in that sense of, okay, while you're here in this space, try it a little bit more relaxed. Don't try to be so strict with yourself and just observe how that changes your practice. And if you don't like the way that it changes your practice, go back to having that strict discipline
Yeah,
and that's totally fine too. So it just really depends on the person. We try to be, really gentle with everyone. I know I've had a few students when I'm offering adjustments who say like, push me harder, like go harder. But sometimes I think that's the ego talking. It's not so much it's not going to be good for their bodies because I can feel, my dad says all the time, you can tell when you're assisting if someone's accepting or rejecting your touch. And if you can feel them rejecting, but they're telling you, keep pushing, I'm not going to listen to what you're telling me because your body is telling me otherwise. So those are kind of moments where I'd say
yeah,
I have to go with my teachings and not so much what the student wants in that moment.
yeah. That's really good insight. Good advice. Do you feel that when you practice, do you try to maintain any sort of I don't want to use the word strict, careful attention to the sequential order that the way the primary and other series have been taught, or do you take do you piecemeal it? Do you pick things that you really enjoy and just
Yeah.
those? How is your approach these days?
I do a little bit of both. I'd say I mostly stick to the sequence.
Mhm.
We really just try to use the picking for more therapeutic uses, people that maybe have Parkinson's or going through chemo and who just need something a little bit different. That's where we would piece it. And for me at this current moment, I don't have a lot of those problems, but there was a time where I had some pretty intense knee injuries from dance and I had to heavily modify my practice and tweak it a little bit so that I could continue.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I just wouldn't be able to practice at all, and that's no fun. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a combo of both has been really helpful for me and for students too. Mhm.
That's cool. Thank you. When someone walks into your space for practice, what's one of the main things you would like for them to pick up on? What type of like intention or focus do you put your mind on to help them potentially convey to the students?
I hope they just leave feeling a little bit lighter than when they came in. I'd say that's the biggest thing for me. As long as you
Yeah.
got one thing out of it, even if it's that maybe you never want to come back, at least you learned something during
Yeah.
that time. So, yeah,
Good
I
point.
just I just hope that everybody can get something out of the day, whether they enjoyed it or not so much. I think the practice is so beautiful and being able to explore your likes and your dislikes and seeing where you might need to shift your mindset also. And I hope that when people come to us, they can just have an open mind, open heart, and see what it does for them and adjust as
Yeah.
needed. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. You are currently enrolled in university study. What are you aiming to, what are you studying?
Yeah, I'm in my first year of a master's in yoga therapy and philosophy. So it's a 3-year program at Loyola Marymount University, and I've been loving it. I'm taking last semester I took Sanskrit 1, Foundations of Yoga and Health Science, and this semester I'm in Sanskrit 2, Hatha Yoga texts, and a philosophy course. It's been really incredible. I've been learning a lot, and actually, my Sanskrit professor was a student of Pattabhi Jois for
Oh,
20
wow.
so years.
Wow.
So she learned from him, and now I get to learn from her, which has been a really
Oh,
full circle,
wow.
beautiful moment. Yeah,
Did she
yeah.
know that you were enrolling in the program, or was that a surprise? You walk in and she goes through the roster of names and says, Sathu Jois, by the way, are you related? How did that unfold?
Yeah, I did my undergrad at Loyola Marymount University also, sort of with the intent of wanting to do my master's there afterwards as well. So when I was in my undergrad, I introduced myself to the people in the yoga studies program, and I met her. And as soon as I met her, she gave me her Sanskrit book, which was dedicated to my grandfather, and it was
Wow.
just yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
she knew who
cool.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, and yeah, the first day. My courses are online, which is really nice. I'm able to be here in San Diego and do it online. But we had a 2 week sort of intensive in Los Angeles where we got to meet everyone in our cohort. And a lot of people are like on the East Coast too, so it's not an in-person really
Understood.
program.
Yeah.
But that first day, I remember going into it thinking like, I don't, no one needs to know, but we're going around the circle introducing ourselves and, oh, like, why are you in this program? And she had introduced herself as, oh, my teacher was Pattabhi Jois. And then of course I said, oh, I'm Sathu Jois. And people kind of, wait a
Ah.
minute. So that didn't last very long, but yeah,
That's
it's been great.
cool. That's so
Yeah.
interesting, Satu. I mean, how do you manage that in relation to potentially people on first interaction with you would maybe just think, oh, she looks really nice and friendly. And then they hear your name and they go, oh my gosh, she's yoga royalty. And then maybe put you up on a pedestal. I don't know if that occurs to you, but how do you ever feel that and do you try to dissuade that or what is your kind of way of thinking around all that?
Yeah, I do feel it sort of sometimes, but I just try to hope that the people I'm surrounding myself with can just see me for me and not kind of categorize me or come up with
That's cool.
preconceived notions or
Yeah.
ideas about
Yeah.
what I might be like or my views on yoga too, because I know, you hear Joyce and you think, oh, maybe they think this way or this way, whatever.
That's
And
interesting.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I hope people can just meet me here and get to know me that way.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
cool. Can you talk to me a little bit about your engagement with the veteran community? Can you talk a little about your what you'd like to achieve in relation to your the help for veterans? Because I know we had a
Yeah.
little opportunity to connect before this podcast, and that's something that really inspired me when you started to express the your passion for assisting in that world. And I'd love to hear about what your dreams and aspirations are in that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So part of the reason I wanted to join this graduate studies program was because eventually I'd love to work directly with veterans or active military, whoever really. But But my interest comes from I really feel that a lot of our passions in life come from loving people who have done those things too. And my uncle, he's not blood related, but his name was Larry. He was a Vietnam veteran and he lived here in Encinitas. And my mom is from New York. She moved from New York here to Encinitas, and she was roommates with Larry. And every morning, Larry would leave at 5 in the morning, and she was like, where is he going?" And one day he brought her with him, and it was to my dad's yoga class. And so that's how my parents
Oh,
met, was
wow.
because of Larry.
Ah,
Yeah. But he was a Vietnam veteran, and when he got out of Vietnam, he was a firefighter while he was there. When he got out of Vietnam, he was diagnosed 100% disabled at 21, and his doctors gave him 10 years to live. He had Agent Orange poisoning, multiple sclerosis. He had COPD eventually, and ulcerative colitis, and all these, he had so many problems. And as I was growing up, he always expressed to me how much the practice had saved his life. He had this 10-year timeline. He was should have been dead by 31, and he passed away 2 years ago. He ended up living to be 75, 76. So I was always really inspired by him, and he never complained. The last 5 years of his life, he was wheelchair bound, but he would still sit in Padmasana when he
oh,
could. And
wow.
he was just, yeah, he was really incredible. And I just, because of my deep love and admiration for him, I want to learn about how I can keep helping people like him. And in my last few years of teaching, I've had students who are veterans, and getting to talk to them one-on-one and understand what they've been through, but then also how the practice itself has helped them in so many different ways. That has been what's really inspired me to work with this specific group, because they do so much for us. They're just incredible humans putting their lives on the line, and the least we could do to give back to them is offer them some peace and relief from whatever pain, mental, physical, that they're feeling. So I'm really excited for what's to come, and I've been speaking closely with one of the veteran students who I've become really close friends with about, starting something with her in the future, because she understands that side. I obviously have not been in the military, so I don't understand everything, and so working with her would be really incredible. So
Oh, amazing,
yeah.
Satu. That's incredible. You have such a good vision for like what you want to do. I love hearing this from you. Would you think about going into the military to learn, to go do a deep dive into what it actually is like to be in the military?
I don't know. I don't honestly think I'm strong enough for that. I mentally, if I'm honest, I don't think that I would be able to do that. I would like to stay probably on the other side and just learn as much as I can from them, and even start applying like yoga therapy to them, because it's already happening. It's already being implemented right now, and I just want to see how much farther we can take it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Amazing. What are your thoughts around the idea of therapeutic Ashtanga yoga? And I know that's a little bit of a funny term because Ashtanga yoga is therapeutic.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then you're probably already picking up on the yoga therapy side of the aspect where it's just done very differently. Like
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
therapeutic yoga session might be approached in a much different way. Have you
Yeah.
explored blending what you're learning within the realm of yoga therapy into the Ashtanga Mysore room? Or do you feel like you
Yeah.
want to keep that separate so that, I want to honor this and also honor that? What are your feelings there?
I sort of like the idea of combining them. I think we're sort of already doing that here at our house. Because we have a lot of people that come to us with different problems, and then we have a lot of fully able-bodied people that just want to do the full series through, and that's totally okay. But I've really loved being able to use the yoga therapy techniques, and apply them to students and see how that changes the practice for them, because there are so many postures in in the Ashtanga sequence. And when you can reorder them sometimes for people that need them to be reordered, then something amazing happens. Even, in I just wrote a paper about yoga and veterans and military, and one of the things that I was learning from it was that actually Ashtanga would be a great practice for them because they need a yoga practice where they can sweat and they can, it has to be a vinyasa. And also, when they're doing, my dad, I remember him telling me that he had the best students he ever had for pranayama were Navy SEALs, that they were just incredible with the pranayama because they have to hold their breath for a long time.
Yeah.
But also, like teaching a meditation or doing chanting, veterans would need to not have their eyes closed all the way. That can take them to a really dark place. So, just having a soft gaze. So, just little things like that, little tweaks that you can make, addressing each person's individual needs, I think is really important in an Ashtanga space. It's not always a one size fits all for everyone. And if we're talking about yoga in terms of therapy, then it's definitely not one size fits all. It's like a prescription. Each person needs something a little bit different. So I think it's great to have that room of the whatever full series, able-bodied, and then a little bit different for others.
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing. I agree with you.
mhm.
Isn't that interesting that the idea of if I were, when I close my eyes, I might end up going into a space that I feel like I can't manage or control, or a traumatic event or memory could potentially surface that could completely disrupt or dysregulate me.
Mhm.
Can you relate with that? Do you ever have you ever had a moment like that where you've gone deep into your own personal meditation practice where you felt like, whoa, whoa, let me get, or do you,
Yeah.
I mean, but then if you've never really had a major traumatic event, maybe that hasn't ever happened to you. What are your thoughts on how to even gauge that as a teacher? Just do you feel like just read the signals of the student and then just be there for them in the moment that they need you? Or
Yeah,
what are some
yeah.
other skills that you've learned?
So, one of the things that I learned in school was that humans are the only species that, after experiencing trauma or stress, they don't immediately run it off. So, like dogs get zoomies, and all animals, they kind of have that way of expelling it from the body. And we start to store that energy in our bodies. And it's like I always talk about this book, The Body Keeps the Score,
Yeah.
because it's really
Yeah.
true. And
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
I've gotten to witness it firsthand with students. And I had one veteran who was going into Kapotasana and started crying. And everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, like, is she okay?" And I was like, "Finally, like, this is great. This is good news." And this specific person hadn't been able to cry in a really long, long time. So having that emotional release was really important for her. And I've experienced the same thing where I'm in a posture that I feel really uncomfortable with, and then sort of sit with it, and then I can release it all. And it's just those moments where you have to hold space for people that are experiencing that. It's a really beautiful thing to be able to see the sense of community that comes together in those kinds of moments. When you have someone in the corner of the room crying, maybe someone's laughing hysterically, and you just let them do their thing because something is coming out. Um, yeah, so I personally I have experienced, personal traumas that have come up when I move. I've never really been able I've never been one to be able to express myself with words, which is why I was always a dancer and why I always felt drawn to yoga, because the way I was able to get it out was through my body, through the
Mm,
practice.
nice. That makes perfect sense. And then just because I want to know what you're talking about, and I haven't heard this term, what is a dog doing a zoomie? Is that like when they run
The
around in a circle?
zoomies, yeah, it's when they're like running really crazy, basically.
And that's just the way of processing. Like they have so much energy, so it's like I gotta get it
Yeah,
out. Versus let me
I,
just sit and stew over this like intensive
exactly.
feeling. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
this wasn't something that I knew. I always thought, oh, my dog is just, feeling really energetic right now. But no, I had a professor who kind of explained to us that we're the only species, humans are the only species that don't immediately expel all of that energy, all of that trauma. We sort of sit with it, we dwell, we push it down until we're forced to bring it back up.
Mm,
So,
mm.
yeah.
What what are some of the things that run through your mind when you're teaching with your dad? I would love to hear, like, do you have moments where you guys kind of make eye contact and just like don't even have to talk and kind of,
Yeah.
are you working intuitively in that space where you feel, connected with not with beyond words or what? 'Cause I
Yeah.
mean, obviously when I'm with my family, there's a different, you can feel like you really can read them and understand what they're thinking and I don't know. So I'm just curious what some of the maybe highlights of being with your dad and teaching that has to be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's such an honor to be able to teach with him and to learn from him. We actually in the yoga space, we only ever communicate with eyes. Like we never are speaking, um, which has been really, I'm smiling right now because yesterday we were doing chanting with the group and he was sitting on the other side of the room and he sort of started like conducting me with his fingers. And I was just laughing during the chanting because I don't need him to conduct me, but he's just funny like that. So he's always, finding joy again. I come back to that joy where he's so funny and his spaces are always filled with so much love and patience and kindness and genuine desire to see his students grow and progress and explore. That's a big thing in his classes is exploration and he encourages me to explore too, which I love.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
be walking around the space together and he can tell that someone maybe needs an adjust and he's just looks at me and I automatically know to go to them and instead of him taking over the whole time, he gives me a lot of opportunity to learn from him and put it into motion also getting to
Mm.
actually use my hands, getting to try new things and he's always just been one to throw me into things. He just do it. We always say he should be sponsored by Nike because he's always just says, just do it.
Don't think
Yeah.
about it too much. Just do it.
Yeah,
That's cool.
exactly.
That's
And
amazing.
it's really helpful too.
Mm.
I teach privates also just every once in a while and I have one student who it's all mental. It's all in her head, not being able to do a posture. And when I say, just take a breath and go right into it. Don't stop thinking about it. And that's when the change happens. And we have another student who works a lot, like 12-hour days every day. And she said that ever since she started her practice has improved so much because when she practices in the morning, she doesn't have time to think about the posture. She just has to go right into it, get her practice done, and then move on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing. That's one thing that I feel really dawned upon me in the Mysore room. I had always been in yoga rooms where there's a lot of barking of commands from a teacher up the front and the first time I got to experience the Mysore style setting and the quietude of it and just being able to hear the breath, people's feet hitting the ground, the all of that stuff just felt like that there was like a nonverbal communication happening,
Hmm.
which is just so fascinating to me. It's cool to hear that you and your dad. Do you guys have you consciously said, look, let's not talk while we're in the room, or has it just been a natural manifestation?
It's been really natural.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
never,
yeah,
it's, I keep talking about dance, but it feels like a dance when I
yeah,
teach with him
yeah,
because it's just this natural kind of
yeah.
environment is created. And, when we travel in Europe too, like there's a language barrier there too. And we just get to communicate with our bodies in that way. So,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
Now that you're studying Sanskrit, are you having any realizations in relation to the power of chanting and hearing the sounds and learning a certain level of pronunciation and then learning meaning? What are some of
Hmm.
the takeaways that you're getting from the study that you're doing currently?
Yeah, it's been funny because I've been chanting since I was really small, since I was like 6. My dad has a chant that he would say to me every night before I went to bed. It was for getting rid of nightmares, And then as I sort of got older and would sit with him in his yoga workshops and he'd do chanting at the end, that's how I learned it. So I just learned it from orally. I didn't ever look at a paper, honestly, until I was maybe in my early 20s or late teens. I'd never seen it written down. I just knew it from listening to him over and over again, which is how they're taught in India. You know, the Brahmin boys are taught orally only. It's not really something that they read or they don't really fully understand what they're actually chanting. And so it's been really a full circle moment to be able to now understand what the meaning is behind what I've been saying this whole time. And
That's
I've
cool.
known like bits and pieces before. I've known, you know, it's for nature, it's for this God, and now I get to really dive deeper, which has been pretty incredible. And it's just showing me how beautiful of a language it is, how beautiful of a tradition it is, and how lucky we are to be able to have this in our practice too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When you make mention of Brahmin boys, how do you navigate being an American woman and also having roots in India or culturally? Because there's a different ways of doing things. How do you feel coming from the American view when you look over at this idea that maybe only the boys would be taught, and
Hmm.
I would have been kept out of that. Do you have any thoughts there? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the shift from such a male-dominated space to now becoming mostly female-dominated space. And I think it's something that, you know, everybody should take part in this space. But it's been interesting to see that shift. And I feel really grateful to be entering at a time where it's more, I guess, acceptable for me to be teaching as a woman and to be teaching as an Indian woman, but I also have this Western perspective at the same time. So I think as a kid, I struggled a lot more because I wanted to be one or the other. You know, my mom is white and I never felt white enough for that side, but then my dad is Indian and I was never Indian enough for either side. But now I see that having this blend, I get a whole different lens than people who might just be one or the other.
Mm,
And yeah, and I feel like um, having these two sides, I'm able to bring in something that's a little bit different and something that maybe is a little more open-minded to finding what's next, you know, because it's we're constantly evolving and who knows what the next space will be, if it'll be female dominated, male dominated, or a perfect combination of the two and with everybody. So yeah, I don't know.
that's really
Yeah.
cool. I hear ya. I recently was having a conversation with someone where I was bringing up this idea that I personally believe humans we could coexist together
Mhm.
peacefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
And their answer was like, no, look at history. Humans have never coexisted peacefully together. There's been war forever and ever and ever. Oh, it's a big one philosophically, but I have to ask
Yeah.
you, which way do you lean? I mean, do you think it could be possible for humanity to exist peacefully all at once on planet Earth together? Or do you feel like we're always going to have this push-pull, sometimes peace, sometimes war? Do you have any thoughts here? I know it's not an easy one to answer, and I don't know that we
No,
could
yeah.
answer it. I don't know that we can
Yeah.
answer this, but I'd just love to hear your thoughts.
I definitely think it's a possibility. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I see it in our classes all the time. You have people from different cultures, different religions, different backgrounds, different ethnicity, different sexuality. You have all these different people coming to your class, and the thing that unites them is this practice, or is this space, or is their devotion and dedication to being there, to showing up for themselves. So if they can do that, if they can coexist in this space, just imagine what good they could do elsewhere. So I think it's a possibility. I think we have to be a little less narrow-minded to get there, but it's something that we can do that's attainable. So
Yay. Thank you,
yeah.
Satu. I agree with you. You've been able to navigate both the yoga world and the dance world. And in relation to physical sensation, pain, injury, and really good feelings in the body with no pain, no injury, what has been your journey in the world of dance? What is your journey in the world of yoga? And then overall, what are your thoughts on what are we trying to do here, like in relation to
hmm
pain and when we're pushing in our practice?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel really grateful to have had this dance background before going into my yoga practice because when I did first start getting more serious in my yoga practice, I noticed how I brought both the positives and the negatives of dance into my practice. And the negatives are what would get me injured. I mean, I would get injured from dance, from pushing myself in dance, from, not warming up or whatever it might have been and it would translate into my yoga practice. I remember one time I was in a yoga space here and I was doing backdrops, and the day before, backdrops were nice and smooth, easy, coming up, coming down, and this next day it was like I went down, I come up, and it was so hard and heavy. And so then I kept trying. I kept going back, and every time I would want to come up, just fall my butt, fall my butt. I just kept falling. And then someone across the room goes, just stop, just sit down, just stop. And I was like, and then I was so embarrassed because I was like, oh, why could I do it yesterday and I couldn't do it today? And over time, I learned that this was a very shame-based idea that I had cultivated in my head. I was like, it was that perfectionism that had come from, my ballet training and from wanting to exceed in my dance career. And I had brought it into yoga, and I really shouldn't have because it was just going to hurt me, and it was just going to hurt my head. It was going to hurt my ego, and that's what was taking over at the time was the perfectionist side of it. And so what I've had to learn recently is just patience and knowing that no 2 days are ever the same. What I could do yesterday, I might not be able to do today, and that's okay. It ebbs and flows. And something I've been really interested in learning about lately too is like the female cycle and understanding how my body changes throughout that, carrying more water weight one day versus being on my period the next day, and just how this will change my practice too, and not having that wanting to force my body to do something that it just doesn't want to do that day. It goes again with just practice and move on. That's, I think, the biggest thing. But yeah, a lot of my dance career I'm really grateful for because it gave me that discipline also to show up for myself and to have that movement. And yeah, it wasn't until my college career that I was really getting injured because I was doing too much, I think, and I was always pushing myself. It was always during a show week that I would get injured and suffer the consequences later by not resting at the time. So I've had to learn to soften. I guess that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Nice, great answer. Thank you so much. While you were saying that and you talked about hydration and being aware of our bodies in relation to how hydrated or not hydrated, I'm reading a book right now called Your Yoga, Your Spine by Bernie Clark.
hmm
And it presented an idea that I had not heard before. I just read this like 2 days ago. His theory is that when we sleep at night, that our spaces in between our backbones, so the intervertebral space, actually swells a little bit because they
hmm
become more hydrated. And through that swelling experience, that actually puts tension on the ligaments surrounding the spinal cord so that when we wake up, his theory, that we shouldn't try to bend our bodies very deeply early, and that we would maybe do better to wait to start moving when the disc space is a little less hydrated. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, I've never even,
Yeah.
but it kind of is interesting because you know how when you wake up and you're like, that feels stiff. And
Yeah.
then, and
Yeah,
like in the later in the
absolutely.
day when we practice at night, it's like, oh my God, oh my gosh, I feel so much more flexible. And then, having within the Mysore realm, it's like we're setting our alarm clocks for 4 a.m. and getting there at
Yeah.
4:30 and trying to do these really deep things really early in the morning. And I was like, okay, well, I needed a little time to process all this and think about what the best way to go here. But I know you haven't had, I don't know if you've had time to think about that, but what are your thoughts there on that idea?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I
Doesn't
mean,
it? I know. Yeah.
because I've tried the both ways of practicing really early in the morning and then practicing in the evenings, when when that morning time isn't accessible to me. And every evening practice is just amazing. It always just feels like I took the day to warm myself up. A few hours before I didn't have such a heavy meal, and so I still feel light enough to be able to do this practice. So that definitely makes sense. And now I'm interested in this in
I
this
know.
topic.
I know. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. My wife and I had an opportunity to live in San Diego. We used to co-direct a yoga studio on Mesa Boulevard, and then we
Mm.
lived down in Carmel Valley. And at that time, we were practicing with Tim Miller when he was on E Street in downtown
Hmm.
Encinitas. I
Yeah.
say all that because we love Encinitas. Like, it's our most favorite town in the US outside of we love where we live here too. Can you tell me a little bit about you've been able to grow up in Encinitas. What is your feelings just about Encinitas? Like, I know one thing for people that don't know, a lot of people will say that Encinitas is like the yoga capital of the United States. And
Yeah.
there's been so many incredible yoga practitioners and teachers and gurus and folks that have moved either through or stayed in Encinitas. There's so many different yoga studios in Encinitas. There's an incredible culture there. I have not been there in a very long time, but I would just love to hear your thoughts about your hometown and what you really appreciate about it.
Yeah, every time I leave and come back, I just grow such a deeper appreciation for living here. Um, it's such it's changed a lot, I will say. In the last 10 years, it's changed quite a bit. It's become very populated. We're getting more and more people coming in. Um, it's not so much small businessy. I mean, there's still a lot of small businesses, but it's starting to feel a little bit. I mean, I went to school in Los Angeles, and every time I'd come home on the weekends, I'd say, "Huh, like it's starting to feel a little bit more like Los Angeles."
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't really tell the difference so much. So that's something that's changing a little bit. I sort of miss the charm of it being such a small town. And I will say with the yoga here, there's a yoga studio on every single corner. It's like, so many different spaces, so many different offerings. And I sort of struggled with that a little bit just because I
Tell
had a
me.
hard time differentiating between the sort of westernized form of yoga versus this very therapeutic offering that we have. And every time I say to someone, "Oh, I'm a yoga teacher. I teach yoga." They're like, "Oh, I love hot yoga. I love," and I'm like, "That's great. Not quite what I am interested in." And I don't judge anyone for their preferences. I just have a hard time, differentiating what we do and then what they do. It's, a workout class versus something profoundly deep and philosophical that can enhance your life. And so that's something that I've been struggling with a little bit here with the yoga. And also, it's not a very diverse place living here. I'd say there's about three Indians that live here, and my dad and I are two of them. So that's been interesting also. Uh, but everything teaches me something. I mean, I learn a lot about what the Western view is on yoga, and then it helps me adjust my teaching and understanding of them. So yeah,
Ah, good insight.
yeah.
I hear you. What do you think of Self-Realization Fellowship?
Yeah, I was gonna say that also. I love the Self-Realization Fellowship. I walk the gardens a lot. I haven't been to any of the meditation courses or anything there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I have Autobiography of a Yogi, and
Yeah.
I love the gardens. And every time we have a yoga group here, I take them. I'll take them this Friday over there. So. Yeah, it's a really beautiful space. I find I can have really deep meditations when I just go sit there for a while too. And honestly, our backyard here has sort of become like a little self-realization fellowship. It's very tall trees and we have a
Nice.
koi pond also. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about what your practice space looks like at your where you guys teach? I think I heard you say it's at your house. And so
Yeah.
when you're
So
describing the koi pond, this is your backyard?
Yes.
And is there a practice space that is enclosed, or are you on a patio outside? Because in San Diego, you guys
No.
don't have bugs like we do over here on the East Coast. So, like, that's one of the most amazing things about California is like you can be outside and not get completely chowed.
I know. Yeah, that is a very nice part of living here. Yeah, so we moved to this house. I think it's been about 16 years now. We used to live right on the beach. I remember when we moved here wondering why we were moving here because this house was built originally in 1975, and when we toured it, it was like there was green carpet in the kitchen. It was like
Yeah,
totally it was
old
ridiculous.
80s style
Yeah. Yeah.
interior. Gotcha.
But of course, my parents saw, the potential. So we got this house and we did, honestly, I think about 10 years of work. And just before, maybe 2 years before the pandemic, my mom decided to convert our garage into a yoga shala.
Cool.
And it's really beautiful. It's small, it can fit comfortably about 14 people. And so if we have bigger groups, we do 2 sessions. But we really like the smaller groups. It's more intimate, getting to connect one-on-one with the students. But yeah, it's great. We have just photos of our family and of Larry and my grandfather and then right outside of the garage we have our garden, vegetable garden, where my dad gets most of he has like coriander out there and curry leaves out there and all these different vegetables he uses for cooking. And then our backyard. So the people who lived here before us, they said they wanted their backyard to look like the Philippines. So you can sort of imagine what it
Wow,
looks like. It's just a lot
that's
of
cool.
trees
Yeah.
and the koi pond came with the house. It had one fish that's still around in there, and we added lots of koi to it as well. And we have a pool, and yeah, it's great.
Nice.
And
That's
no
cool.
complaints here. Yeah,
That's awesome. It is neat
yeah,
to think about being able to go to somebody's house to practice where you have
yeah.
that environment.
Yeah.
Is it hard to separate though? I've always wondered like if I had that's one thing I found was interesting being in Mysore and seeing how, living at the shala being below and the house or living quarters above. I always wondered, but if I wanted to get away from the students, would I be able to? I'm curious,
Yeah.
do you ever have any of that kind of challenge or is it just flow nice and easy?
I'd say because we don't hold classes daily, it's
Uh-huh.
more like
Got
weeks
it.
at a time, week
Got it.
chunks.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier. And also my mom, and sometimes my dad, we cook for the whole group. So, they do their
Wow.
morning practice and then
And then you
we
cook for them so
do,
they can eat after
yeah.
practice. Oh my God.
Yeah, so
That
it's
sounds
really
heavenly.
lovely.
That sounds
Yeah, oh my gosh. It's amazing. And it's nice to share a meal too with the whole group and just get to talk that way and connect
wow.
in that way. So yeah, I mean, if we had to do that every day, that would definitely, I'd be like, okay, we need to take a step back. But because it's, in week chunks, it's a lot easier and we love having everyone here. Everyone that comes feels like family, even if we haven't met them yet, it's a certain person has to be able to come here. You have to, be humble and you have to not expect anything when you come here and just have again, an open
Yeah.
mind, open heart. And so we have a lot of fun. Yeah.
Nice. That sounds amazing, Satu. I really hope to
Yeah.
come visit you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. How do you feel about social media? I really
That's a
appreciate
great
I
question.
really appreciate you being here now because we're putting ourselves out into the public sphere and I like this medium because with conversation and long form conversation we get to really dig into some different ideas versus trying to make a massive point within 15 seconds. And so
Yeah.
I just love to hear about how do you navigate the balance between being an authentic teacher and presenting yourself in the public sphere through the internet.
Yeah. Oh man, social media is a crazy place.
Oh man, here we go. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny because I mean, right now it's so hard to support yourself in anything, in any job. It's really difficult right now to support yourself. And so I understand people who love to teach yoga, want to teach yoga. They'll continue to support themselves through content and all of that. But I have strong feelings about what content they're choosing to put out there and what the message is that they're sending. I think there's just too many people, at least in the yoga social community, who use their platform to lift themselves up by tearing others down. And that's something why? That's not the path at all.
Okay.
That's not the
Yeah.
path that we're going on. And if you're really surrendering to the practice, you would understand that that's not something that you should be doing. You should never have to tear others down to show your worth. And I think a lot of the content we see too is very, how to do this asana, how to do that asana. But I think that kind of material should be saved for an in-person space. And I understand that's not available to everybody. I know it's hard financially to be able to attend a workshop and to do all of those things. But I also, you see sometimes on social media people giving incorrect information about how to enter a posture, and that can be really harmful for an inexperienced practitioner. I think we're more and more losing this connection, the one-on-one in-person human connection. And so I think we just need to continue, now with the use of AI everywhere, it's so important to maintain human connection, human conversation, and studying the body in person. So yeah, I think
Yeah. Great point.
everything, it should be taken with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was gonna take us down the whole AI thing, but let's just not. Let's go somewhere
It's
else.
for another
That's
time.
for another
Yeah.
time. What are some of so I picked up on that you'd like to complete your master's program. You're in year one, so it sounds like you have two
Mhm.
more years to go.
Yeah.
I pick up on you love family and you're really grateful to be around your family and have a tight connection, which I really appreciate. That you're really interested and focused on helping the veterans community, which is cool. So if you're to put yourself out, and I know we're supposed to stay present, but I just love to hear, but you're so young, I'd love to hear what your dreams and aspirations are moving like as you visualize yourself as you go down this track. Do you have a dream, a vision beyond what you've shared with me or any other little tidbits you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest dream, it's funny, I just made a vision board where every year I put, the end
Cool.
goal for
Very cool.
eventually.
Yeah.
But I would
Well,
love
well,
to
what did you put? What did you put? If you don't mind, you don't have to share it.
No, no, not
I'm
at
just
all.
okay.
I put all kinds of little things, it's some big, some small, but my motto for this year is finding more pockets of joy where I can. I experienced a lot of loss the last 3 years, sort of like one after another, a lot of grief I had to experience. So now I'm just like, if joy is not going to be there, you have to create it. And so that's one of the biggest things that's my
Nice.
motto for the year.
Nice.
And more hobbies. Hobbies are so important. We can't just do one thing. So just my mom's going to teach me how to crochet, and I'm going to get back into guitar, start taking guitar lessons, just fun things like that. But the end goal for me, I love animals. I really have a deep love for animals, and I'd love to have a farm, actually. I
Yeah.
would love to have a
Yes.
farm.
How many
Um,
acres? If you visualized how many acres, how big of a space do you feel like you need?
Big, nice and big.
Oh, we're talking big, like 100, like five, like
I
what is big to you?
maybe like 30. 30 sounds
Nice.
good.
Yeah.
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 I
And
would
if you
love to
had to,
just,
and if you got
yeah.
to pick somewhere,
Uh-huh.
would you be a Californian? Would you go Washington? Which India? Where would you want? Where would you want your
Too hot in India for me. No, yeah, it's funny. I've been trying to, when I travel, see, oh, would I want to live here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to I love Vermont.
Cool.
I
I've
love
never been. I've
Oregon
never.
also.
Mm.
Oh, Vermont, you definitely need to make the trip. I was
I hear
just
it's so
there
beautiful. Oh
in
my
the
God.
fall. Oh my God. It's just beautiful year round. It's such an amazing place, and politically they're very liberal, and I like that. And
Yeah.
they also have like a no billboards rule there, which I love. You don't get any of
Oh,
that like
yeah.
clutter, I guess.
Yeah.
They're very environmentally conscious, which I really care about. So
Yeah.
um yeah, Vermont's beautiful. Even Hawaii, if I could go to Hawaii, Maui, I love Maui. But yeah, I'd love a farm. I'd love to have a little yoga shala on the farm. And I was actually a barista for 4 years, so I'd love to open a little cafe also. And
Yeah.
I just like hubs. I like being a hub. I love
Yeah.
that we host yoga here. I love every year we host Thanksgiving and Christmas at our house. We're always the hosting family, and I just want to keep that up. So that's the dream. Just
Oh my
community, I
gosh.
guess, is the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, Satu. Well, that sounds
Yeah.
amazing. You know, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being open and willing to come here on the show and share your stories with us. I really appreciate it. In the attempt to come toward our close, is there any other thing you'd like to leave us with in terms of just words of inspiration and or any further insights before we conclude?
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for having me. This was my first podcast, and so I'm
Yeah.
really just
All
honored
right.
to be here and
Woo.
woo.
Well, thank
But
you. That's an
yeah,
honor,
yeah,
Satu.
yeah,
Thank you so
yeah.
much. Thank you
Thank you.
for being willing to do
And
that. But continue.
if
I'm sorry.
any,
I stopped
oh
you.
no, no, no
Yeah.
worries. I was
All
just
right.
gonna
All right.
say, like anyone listening, I hope you have a great new year and that you continue to find the joy. I guess that's our theme is
Yeah,
find the
the
joy.
pockets,
Yeah.
the little
Yeah.
pockets, like a minute here, a minute there.
Exactly.
Amazing. Amazing,
Yeah.
Satu. Well, we can find you on your website,
Yes.
joysatu.com, and you're on
Yeah.
Instagram. Can you run me your Instagram handle again?
Satu Jois.
Satu
Yeah.
Jois. Cool.
That's it.
Awesome, Satu. Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait to continue our conversation down the road.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. Bye.